Hi, and welcome to View Arts Center. This is a conversation with Allie Feeney and I, Kelsey, Lynn, Mayo, about our show Northern Lights that we have co-curated together. I'm the exhibition manager here at View, and when I was thinking about shows I was going to curate, I thought about Allie and was like, what a nice time to bring some light work to Old Forge in the winter to brighten things up. So I'll give a little background on myself and then I'll have Allie go. But I first met Allie when we were on our BFAs at Alfred University, where we both studied sculpture and particularly got into glass and neon at that point. After that, I went on to move to England, where I got my master's from University of Sunderland, concentrating in glass. And then I set up my own studio where I was making work, my own work. I was also curating and running art events for 8 years in England. And I've moved back to New York and uh, got connected with Allie again, even though we stayed connected virtually over all these years. And we thought it'd be a good time to do a show together. So yeah, Allie, if you want to go. Oh wait, can't hear you.
I was trying to be polite and not have like strange sounds come in. Sorry. So, hi, I'm Allie. Like Kel said, I went to Alfred University for my undergrad, and part of that was because Alfred was a program that didn't make you choose a specific medium, and it gave you a lot of room to explore different things. And if I had gone to a different school, I would have been a graphic designer, but because Alfred makes you try different things, I did glass as a weird little spur bold moment for me. And then I never looked back. After that, throughout the years, I've been bouncing around the country doing different jobs in glass studios, and I got my master's at the University of Texas at Arlington with Justin Ginsburg, which was a very transformative time for me. I graduated in the spring of 2020. It was great.
Yeah, what an
It
awesome
was
time
so
to
great.
graduate.
What can I say? It was really great. So, um, but after that, I'm now living in Brooklyn, New York, and I work as a freelance artist, both in blowing glass and fabrication, neon sign production. And I'm like, I really am a jack of all trades personality type, and I think that's been serving me really well. So I really love that Alfred kind of planted that seed back in the day.
Yeah, you were definitely you and James were who's James is in this show as well. Uh were the first people to be like, you know what, you should try glass. And I was like,
Yeah, we were so terrible influences. You should do this just because I'm bored and you need to pay attention to me.
and I need a hot
So
shot partner, so let's go.
yeah, I need an assistant. Please help me.
Yeah, so
So
that
that's
was
been
our
fun.
journey. We also were on the ski team together, so we were very close throughout the whole time.
That was, yeah, it was really fun being able to like spend the evenings freezing our toes off on Swain Mountain
Yep, going from
and running
freezing to
gates
hot in the
until
hot
10
shop.
p.m. Yeah,
Yep.
dude. Driving back and we're just like, we have our art projects. So yeah, it was really fun. I wouldn't have traded it for anything. It was really cool.
Yeah, so we on the other screen here, we have two of our pieces that are in the show. Allie's on the left there, and then mine's on the right. If you want to talk about yours first, Allie, go ahead.
Well, so in graduate school, I really became interested in utilizing wool, sheep's wool, to make work because there's a softness to it, and it's very it presents itself very similar to glass, where it is a soft, formable material that just takes some time of working with it. And needle felting is a very old practice that it's thought to be one of the oldest forms of fabric making in his human history period. Um, So I wanted to create a piece that talks about the desires of humans, and one of those is oranges. Oranges have been genetically modified and created to be what we know them to be. And I also find it interesting in the definition of the forbidden fruit. There's a lot of uh, argument or debate for interpretation of like the different kind of fruit it could be. Something, a lot of people say apple, pomegranate, but orange is one of those that are listed as well. And I think that's a very interesting thing to have this branch being contorted around a source of light that would give it its source of power and growth opportunity. Because I'm really interested in in like the basis of human, where we start and where we go from there, and how we interpret those different starts.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And I just wanted to do a little side note. So Travis is in the gallery, our superstar, filming everything right now. And you might get a little brightness on your screen that blows out the image. It's just the nature of light work, where some lights will be a lot like Allie's is a much thicker, brighter tube. Then when we go to mine, it might blow out the screen. So just be prepared, and Travis will focus back in. He'll do his magic and he'll make it look good.
I guess it's an opportunity where to say that neon is really the best viewed in person. Like it is just magical in person, and cameras just can't capture that magic, even if it tries.
Yeah, we try, we edit, we try to make it work.
It is real, I promise.
Yeah, so thank you, Allie, for that. So like Allie, I also like using mixed materials with neon. I don't think I've ever just had a piece that was straight up neon. I'm always introducing other materials. This piece is actually has flocking in the background. And then strings that almost look like it's pulling on the neon. So this piece is called Comfort and Tension. A lot of my themes and work have to do with mental health or creating a mood within the piece. So you can see there the strings are pulling down. It's also, I've been playing with like a fiber optic effect, where you could see it actually flips the V around and starts to distort things and make you like second guess what you're looking at. Um, but yeah, this piece is definitely one of those where if you're in the gallery, you see all these tiny little fibers that are on there. And it's actually, if you like touch it, they'll like flake off. And it's about this whole idea of being comforted at times, but also having tension around when dealing with things. So yeah, I do play a lot. It's not always one thing. But that's what I think Alfred kind of like opened that up in our brains and was like, you don't have to stick to one thing. You can try things out. And I think that's what's really great about this show is you get to see how different light can be used. It's not just like one set. You're not looking at a sign per se. You're looking at several different media, along with different ideas as well.
Uh, And what I really like about this piece is the play of luminosity, right? It's because you have a surface that absorbs a lot of light, the flocked surface, while the wire translates that light all the way to the bottom, which is like it's a very nice draw of attention with light that only light can really produce that effect, which is a very nice quality, and that's very unique for glass and neon that I appreciate that you brought to the piece.
Oh, thank you, Allie. I appreciate that. Yeah, so when we were getting the show together, we were like, oh, maybe we should also show what we do. So we put in our pieces. And then as we were finding people, I just couldn't believe the turnout. We just had so many like big names come in on the show, and I'm so happy that they were able to join us.
It's been really fantastic to deal or to like work with and deal with artworks that have like really they're from peers of mine that I've known for a long time or people that I've looked up to. So it's been really fun to work with them in this manner. Um, and to show what they do best, which is like making art.
Yeah, and it's not this show isn't just neon. We also have lighting design, shadow-based work, stained glass, projection, and LED. So we kind of covered almost everything, I'd say, except for like bioluminescence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't get an anglerfish in there. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Or
Uh,
phytoplankton.
yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about our inspiration?
Yeah. So we were Kels approached me and we wanted to make this show that encompassed artists who are from the Northeast that worked with light as a medium. We weren't very specific to the type of light source that they use. It's more have to do with harnessing light as a main focal point within the artwork. And so this showcases the variety of approaches and the sort of spectacular results that come from experimenting with light, and especially with mediums that I know very well, which is like glass. Even though we have other artists in the show that show pieces that are other materials, glass is just a very natural choice for light luminosity and giving those different colors. Like glass just has that diversity. Um, so this we wanted to bring beautiful lights similar to the northern lights in the northern hemisphere or during during the dark hours to places like the Adirondacks, which I have a big heart for, having spent a lot of time in the mountains skiing them and freezing my butt off in Alfred in the snow with all my jackets. And there is something wonderful and inspiring and warm about seeing light coming from an object that is similar to what we're seeing on screen, that is, a neon piece that we don't normally get to see, or an LED or projection, like stained glass. These are relationships with light that we don't normally acknowledge that the show really allows us to showcase. And um, giving artists an opportunity to share with people that their approach to making artwork and how they utilize light in different ways, because neon may be one way, but we have people like Lucas Milinak who didn't use any neon, and then we have Ellen Sherry who did stained glass that uses existing light to pass through the planes. So there's lots of ways that people have approached this, and that's what we wanted to showcase and share with people. Uh,
Yeah, and I think this piece here, can show not only the different way of using light, but also the different ideas that you can put through by using light itself. So this is James Akers. This is called Intellectual Property Hotline. So I love this piece, and it actually worked today. People can call that number and he will give them an idea that is then theirs to do something with whatever their heart desires. Uh, and then it will be like a one of a kind idea. So I've seen quite a few people in the gallery calling, and I get to kind of listen from my office, and it's wonderful. And then I'll call James later. I'm like, what was the idea? I couldn't quite hear.
it's also fun being next to so James and I are partners, and it'll be fun sitting in the grocery store and he's like, intellectual property hotline, this is James, how can I help you? Like, oh my. So I think what's really fun is the sort of playful nature of it, that you can be given an idea that maybe at first doesn't seem that interesting, but it's something that can be transformed. And there's like this exchange of time for an idea, like the caller's calling and asking for inspiration. Whether you find inspiration in that idea or not is up to you.
Yeah.
There's some fun ideas that he's come up with in the past. I thought was
It,
really funny.
it's also a great example of traditional sign making as well.
Right, having very obvious advertising qualities and uh utilizing the sort of focal point that is, the eyes that people's eyes like to go to, like the flashing call now. It's hard to ignore. And James used all colored glass. And in neon, you can have, there's a couple ways to color glass to get different colored light. And one of them is having the physical glass itself be colored. And so this way that no matter what time of the day it is, and if there's a direct sunlight on it, you can still see what colors it should be. And it gives it a lot more presence, having those colors um being the focal point of the piece, because everything else about it is very simple. And one thing he did use or utilize for this piece was what's called a dead frame. A dead frame, if you look beyond the letters, there's these glass clear rods, and those are what is holding the sign together with uh, little pieces of copper wire that we call tie wire and silicone that he glued to the piece itself. This is a very traditional way of making neon signs that were lightweight and visually lightweight, and were easy to get everything in alignment because of its sort of self directive alignment that you can and the control that you have. So this was very popular of a sign process back before we had major plastic production, and if you wanted it to still be transparent, because otherwise it was wood. To mount or metal, porcelain. Uh, the porcelain face steel signs were also a big thing that people would utilize. So this was a way to honor the transparency of of like a traditional sign process, without it being so it's nodding to that old culture of neon sign making in a contemporary setting that is intellectual property.
And I love it in the gallery as well because it really glows on the wall. And that flash just flickers in the corner of the gallery, and I love it. It like really, when you walk in and you see it, and it like brings your eye right to
It's like a turn signal.
it. So I think we'll go to Lucas now, his projection.
Colors to life.
Yep, colors to life.
I
So
love this
this
piece.
is right in the center of the gallery as you walk in. It has a soundtrack, but won't be able to hear it right now. Definitely one of them better to come sit with it. And this is the last week, so if people can get here, we'd love to have you and have you see the exhibition. So this piece is cast glass, water, polarizing film, and a halogen bulb. So it is kind of going on a total different spectrum than what we just saw with James. Ellie, if you want to talk a little bit about this one, go ahead.
Um, well, this piece is demonstrating this sort of contrast and the volatile nature of hot glass and as you rapidly cool it. Um, so glass is a material that is unique where the molecules do not form a crystalline structure. So a lot of things that we come to know and understand make a crystal structure. So metals, ceramics, plastics, wood, they all create a structure, but glass, the molecules don't. They are organic and free form. So when the glass is cooling, it's important because there's not a structure to stand up to the stress of rapid cooling. You have to cool it slowly if you want it to stay whole. In this case, Lucas has taken 2000 plus degree glass, like 2000-degree Fahrenheit glass, and placed it into water and filmed that interaction, that chemical and physical reaction of glass rapidly cooling in a environment that is unforgiving to glass, because everything is relative when we say cooling or heating. If the water is like a
That's a
room
large
temperature,
spectrum.
yeah, it's a big
Yeah.
spectrum. The water is at like 76 degrees, which for most people, like feeling to the touch, is probably 50 degrees, give or take. Um, and so if you drop this 2000-degree uh block of glass, you get to watch the cracks form, the stress build, all the rainbows that you see that are so beautiful is the internalized structure failing. And the
Stressful rainbows.
yeah, and where there's broken and destruction, there can be beauty. And in this case, that is what it is. That there is a lot of beauty in the destruction of glass as it creates these deep fissures and obstructs the light and distorts it to create those rainbows. But it's a very fascinating exploration of materiality and physics and the properties of those materials interacting together.
And I think the title as well really shows that colors to life. They really do. You see them, those bubbles moving around, and it's almost an animated form at that stage.
Of watching the boop. Oh, it's very, I mean, I think it's one of those, you can't you can't replace glass, it being transparent and able to give us visuals like this, and behave in this way is very specific and unique. Ceramics is one of the few materials that's like a bridge to glass, but it still is a little bit different in its physical properties. I love
Yeah.
that this is it, like trying to capture all of those moments.
It's interesting because we have this, which is a very experimental way of showing glass. And then we have our next artist is on the other side of the spectrum, where she is working, Ellen Sherry is working with very traditional techniques of stained glass, from engraving with the contrast of like a rondelle in the middle. Oh, this is a different piece, but I could talk about this one too. So she uses a lot of religious symbolic, usually with the moon and tides. Oh, there we go. That was what I was talking about. The little kind of, we'll get a little light change
Our
here and there.
superstar's doing wonderful. We love our superstar.
Yes. She also utilizes flash glass, which you can see where there's white on the side, but then the shadow is that brown there, which is really beautiful. The hers is like when you're coming in, it might not be the first one you see because it's not that, intense blinking or, bright luminosity, but then you walk up and it has the most beautiful details with those engraving marks in there.
Right. And also like encapsulating the history that we've known glass to be. This is one of the oldest forms of glass making, stained glass, and it's got this beautiful narrative quality to it to share stories and folklore or um sorry, my brain is blanking, but like, Christian traditions and other, like stained glass has been utilized in so many cultures.
It tends to
And I
be the
like
primary thing you think of when you think of glass because so many people have grown up in churches or at least visited churches. And it's then you see it now in this contemporary setting and you're like, wow, it can be very beautiful with a new dialogue or slightly different way than that traditional way you're seeing it, but still referencing it.
right. I think the reason like glass was was such a big draw for depictions of religious stories and accounts was because light is a very sacred material, and glass was one of those few materials that was able to demonstrate that very effectively. Whenever, it's very powerful to sit in a church that has some of the most beautiful stained glass in there, casting colorful light all over the room. It's very empowering. And I think that the way that Ellen has chosen to utilize that technique that is so ingrained in history, at least for Europe. I'm more versed in the European stained glass, but I know that this is like universal, and it's just so cool to see it being taken in a very different direction
Yeah.
than a lot of stained glass artists I've seen.
Travis, could you show her other piece as well? I just want to show the rondelle as well and talk a little bit about incorporating hot shop glass into pieces. Uh, so there's a few pieces within this exhibition that incorporate
There she is.
blown glass into the piece, and this is one of them. So that's what's called a rondelle. It's the white part in the middle, and it is spun out in the hot shop on the punty, and it becomes like this very kind of, it's almost like frosting looking, like milky, beautiful. It could be in any color, but this one particular, and it has like this nice smooth kind of bump throughout it, and you can see the thickness in there. And it casts a beautiful shadow. It might be a little hard to see on video, but if you're in person, you can really get a good idea of it.
You can kind of see, if you saw in the middle, that little like I don't know, thumbprint looking mark is the prior connection point from when they were making it in the hot shop, which is called the punty that Kels was mentioning.
Yeah, I realized that's not a common word as I like moved on. I was like, maybe I should explain what that is.
I guess I'm used to getting a lot of looks because I'm like, I get it. My job is weird. So you get it. I think what's really fascinating is the evidence of the movement in this piece from because when you make these rondelles, you're turning the pipe as fast as you can to have centrifugal force. I had a physicist be like, it's not it's centrifugal. And I was like, okay, thank you. So centrifugal force that like influences the glass with the heat and the way that it moves. And I think that it's a hard thing to capture multiple times the same way each time.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate the organic quality
And
of
that
blown
expansion
glass
is
in
happening
this.
so quick. So it is going to be
Yeah,
different every time, but that's something beautiful about it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think like pairing it with the let's see how many, 8 different of those little spheres are faceted to have those, I guess it would it be like hexagonal um crystallized, like a sort of crystal look. That's like a man-made machine-made product next to all these hand-drawn little scallops and the hand-blown glass. I think it's a really nice contrast.
Yeah. She's brilliant at creating contrast within a panel.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yes. So another artist that we had join us, and I'm so happy she was able to get some pieces here, is Esther Ruiz. We'll give Travis a moment to swing around to that. But this is another artist utilizing neon, but also using sculptural form as well. So yeah, we're almost there. There we go.
Whee!
Yeah, you get to go on like a little ride when you watch these videos.
Yeah, spin you around like a tiny dancer.
Yeah. And one thing I love about her work, I also utilize it a lot, and mine is like reflection, that having the viewer become a part of the work, reflect on themselves as they're with the piece, which can be a really beautiful kind of quiet moment for yourself in a gallery.
Right. They're like little portals into a new space or a new reality. I think there's something really interesting about having that um reflective quality, and especially with these like kind of like these shapes, it's like asking you to engage with the surface and to like maybe look into like a place that could be, or a place that might be, or a place that could have been. Like, the reflection is, I think, a great representation of yourself and being able to acknowledge those things about you and making those different changes. So you're looking into your different futures or different pasts based off of what you see.
Yeah,
Um, and I
I totally
really like
agree.
those, that they're these big stones, these big like faces to look into and to think about
They're also
your
so
place.
crisp. When you're seeing them in person, you're just like blown away by how crisp her design is. And when she's making these, she's really thinking through every part of it.
Yeah, and like I know that maybe this is going to potentially sound a little like critical, but it's not. I love that the shapes that are bent are kind of like a slight wobble. Like there's a slight like
Yeah.
organic quality to it. And I love that because it's so often we see neon being perfect shapes and perfect lines. And I like that these kind of have a little push to it that's not so cylindrical, not so spherical, and I really appreciate that.
You really see it in this piece with the wobble of the
Mhm.
neon.
Yeah, and the
And
acrylic with
that,
those streaks are so nice. I
yeah,
love
that
it.
black like follows that as well. I love that.
And you know what's something I really appreciate that Esther does is making those little plastic, we call them tube supports, to hold the tube up and off the surface. Those are made, like she makes those. They're like no one
And they're
makes.
colored themselves, which just adds a
Right,
whole nother element. And you almost become surprised by them. You're like, oh, look at that. It's not just the normal tube support. You're buying in like packets of 100.
right. I mean, because they react with the neon, because she's choosing very bright colored plastics, that react with the neon, and I think it's a beautiful quality to the pieces, to have that luminosity, and little focal points that are often industrialized. She's taken
Yes,
a sort of artistic approach to fabricating her own that make more sense for her pieces than any industrial product could.
definitely. And I totally understand that. Like I tend to hide it all. I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
I don't feel like it goes with the theme. I'm just gonna hide it all together. But then there's people like James working in neon. They're like, no, show it more. So we all have our different opinions on it.
I'm laughing because of like some of James's other pieces that I know of, that because I'm lucky to know him that way, but like they're just neon wires and electronic wires and just stuff everywhere. Which
Yeah.
is a really fun thing. Like Jason Rhodes is an artist that I think of who was a maximalist who used a ton of neon, a ton of wires, and made these really big chandeliers out of it. It was really it was very effective and fascinating. So
Mhm.
there's a I love that push and pull. You get like that neon light work sculpture can fit all of those categories. Like it can be minimalist, it can be maximalist, it can be a lot of things. Like it's very pliable in that way.
Yeah, and then you have pieces like Lucas, his Firefly piece
Mm.
has it's not quite exposed because it's in the glass, but you're seeing p electronic parts of the LED in there.
And there's like this sort of mystical section of like all the little LEDs, uh
Mhm.
be like, kind of scintillating in there. And the sort of like childhood capturing something and holding it dear, I think is a really nice quality for that piece.
I keep forgetting to tell him, but I had this lamp growing up that looked so similar to this, but it was Pooh Bear themed. And not glass, obviously, because it was a kid's, but when it brings back that childhood nostalgia for me as well.
Yeah.
And I love how he even has, like, the little wings on the LEDs.
I know. I was just looking at those and admiring the little wings. I was like, that's really cute. I remember, I mean, rare kind of moment was like a part of the positive of my job is like kind of being able to be a part of a lot of things. And so I remember helping Lucas make this light base in the hot shop. And I just think that's really fun. Like, yeah, I remember making that.
Yeah.
So it's really fun. Really appreciate that part, because I was just like a part of the small process that is helping make something. And Lucas transformed it into what it is right now. And it looks so different from when we first made it.
And
Did a
it's
lot of work.
to see this kinda shift of a lot of people supporting each other within our generation and, figuring out how things are made, how what's the proper way to make it, uh, amongst a lot of the colleagues we know are very, like, happy to share knowledge and make sure we all get to the point we want to within pieces.
Right. Or like, I think a lot, what I really appreciate is there's a very large community. I can mostly speak to just primarily glass, but I know that from other friends of mine in different facets of New York, and the East Coast, is that there's just people everywhere, and there's so many cool communities that all they want to do is support you. And in New York, I feel that's way very strongly because a lot of these people I've either helped or have known for a long time. And I think it's a very valuable quality to have that I very much appreciate in my life, is that all these people are friends or colleagues or pillars in our community, either way, that like
Yeah.
are fantastic creators.
Yeah, and, it's interesting because like, this show, we're getting so many different names coming up, all northern based. But we all kind of can look back to like big hitter names that we love and enjoy and that brought us into working with light or wanting to show pieces of light. I thought we could talk about a couple of those for people that maybe aren't familiar with light work.
Right,
Um,
like different sources for generating light for art
mm,
pieces. Those I mean, I think what's really fascinating about art or art making, and especially making light-based art, is, I mean, where do you start? Like, there's so many places you can get light from, and different ways of creating that process of making. So, I mean, you think of all the different ways of generating light, and I think of all the different artists who have utilized light in so many ways. So, one way is like, what's a very simple, like easy access light source? Light bulbs, candles, the sun. The
yeah,
sun's
well, it
great.
makes me think of James Turrell, the Sky Space piece there, Sky Space,
Yes.
because that's, you're utilizing what you have naturally.
Right, and I think, if my memory is not failing me, that's the piece that's the oculus in the ceiling.
Yeah,
That's just the, sky.
and it shifts, so you can sit in there for hours and it changes throughout the day. So you're
Yeah,
getting a
I know
different
that this might
experience.
be a really, like, this is a fun little, like, thing that happened, but he installed a piece in Dallas, Fort Worth at, the Nasher Sculpture Center, and because he designed those pieces to, like Kels mentioned, to be an like a view of our natural world that's hard to get. So the piece was designed to have not one man-made thing visible in the opening of this piece. Um, well, Texas likes to grow, I tell you what. So they built a skyscraper that went right into the Oculus,
Oh,
and
no.
it's been an interesting moment in art history and art preservation and conservation, and how they fix this.
Yeah,
Because
that's
now the
like,
piece is technically ruined, right? But
yeah.
because it has this big building sticking into it. But I think that's really interesting, that
Well,
just that
it's
little difference
man's
makes a
taking
big
over the
difference.
natural world as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
very clearly doing it right there.
So
Yeah.
fascinating. And so I'm like taking like something that's natural, like light as it is from a natural resource, I think is a pretty obvious place to start that can generate a lot of inspiration that continues to drive inspiration for a lot of people. Um, just like how stained glass uses natural light
Hmm.
to, you know, um, transform into its enchanted, enlightened look and state. It sounds very holy, but I guess that makes sense for stained glass.
Yeah, it does.
um,
We're actually gonna have a glass show as well this year. Which one of the kind of best current working stained glass artists is gonna be here, Judith Schechter. Um, which Allie and I both love her work. And that will
and
be,
her.
and yeah, I haven't met her before, so maybe I will for this. It'll be exciting.
She's
Uh,
incredible.
yeah,
I have not a bad thing to say about Judith. Not one bad
yeah.
thing. There, she's amazing.
And it's gonna be brilliant to have a piece of hers here. And we got to see a bit of stained glass in the winter, and now we're gonna get some bigger pieces here from Judith. And that's gonna be June 8th to July 28th. Really excited about this. I feel like this was a little preview, get a little taste of glass, and then this is gonna be full on glass show.
I think something that I wanted to emphasize, because I've heard Judith talk a lot in my life. I'm very thankful for that. But I want to say I've heard her talk like 5 or 6 times. She only makes 1 to 3 pieces a year.
Wow.
So these are incredibly detailed, incredibly process specific, incredibly uh difficult to make and major acts of love to make her pieces. Like she is incredible. And it's like I that's something that makes me appreciate the work more is the kind of dedication it takes to make Judas stained glass because it's upwards of 3 layers of glass stacked to
Mm,
create the look or the dimension and the colors. It's phenomenal. She's phenomenal. It would be a huge miss to not see that work.
yeah. Yeah.
Truly. I don't really say that about a lot of people's work, but if you miss Judith's work, you're very much missing out, I have to say.
And on top of that show, we're also going to have the Corning Mobile Hot Shop here, which is super exciting. Yeah. How could you
Dude.
miss that? Got to come to the Adirondacks this summer.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I have a big, deep love for Corning. Oh my gosh. I remember being 18 years old and my parents dragged me, and I do say dragged because it had been a long tour before I went to college, and Corning was like the last stop before it was me going to Alfred. And I just remember being like, I guess it's cool. I guess this is cool. Cool. So I think like the Corning people have been a big inspiration in my life, and I love that the Mobile Glass Studio is going to be there, like bringing the hot shop from a very different part of New York State that Kelsey and I are very much friendly with, but to a different part, which is really fun.
Yeah. It's gonna be a whole glass extravaganza here. We're gonna
Maybe
be
we can get
taking
them to make some flash
classes.
glass.
Ooh, yeah. Maybe I could get some in print, maybe. Ooh.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
See,
yeah.
here we are, always thinking of things to do.
We're always creating, always planning.
I'll also give a notice that if anyone wants to ask us any questions about this exhibition or light or neon as art, now would be the time. There's like a little button at the bottom that says Q&A. Um, and yeah, you can enter that. We'll talk about a few more things. I'll keep monitoring that and we'll answer them if we get any. Um, I do want to also s- ask you, is there any other light artists that were a big inspiration for you? I think we have very similar ones, but I'll ask you first.
Yeah, I think a big one for me was Tracy Emin because she utilized more than just neon in her art practice. I mean, a lot of people connect with her piece, the bed piece that
Yeah.
she had put into, wow, I just blinked it. It was a Biennale.
Was it the
I think it
Met?
was like one of the London Biennale. It was in
Yeah.
London. But uh I mean, incredibly powerful. She's quite a powerhouse to make work that is from such a dark, negative, depressing state of life. Such beauty
Mhm.
came from that. And I think that's what's really
And I think
powerful to me.
with like our work, we look up to her because we're also utilizing those deep rooted feelings and different histories within our lives and utilizing it into something beautiful within art. And seeing her work at, young 18 years old on a trip to New York City, I just was like, this is what I want to go for. I want to evoke these
Mhm.
types of feelings, and she's just so powerful.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I think that both you and I utilize soft and hard materials, just like Tracy does. You know, Tracy
Mhm.
utilizes found and created objects, and soft and hard and organic and man-made, like all sorts of different materials, which I think is really powerful. Um, and I think some of my favorite pieces, there's a show right now in London that is showcasing a large amount of fiber and soft art, like soft sculpture artwork. And they have a good chunk of her quilt pieces. If I remember correctly, they may have the tent that she made
Oh, wow.
in 1999. But I know they have quilts from that same time period that are up for that. And I think that just goes to show the power that she has of harnessing different materials to create art that is very emotional, evocative, sensitive, sensual, and confusing and polarizing. And I love that about her work.
Mhm.
I could
Yeah.
just blah, 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 blah.
I know. And if you ever wonder what our phone call conversations are like, this is it
This is
basically.
it. This is it. Kelsey, have you ever thought about making this and this and this and this?
Well, I'm so happy we were able to do this, and I'm glad we were able to do this talk as well. I don't think we have any
Likewise.
questions, but we did get a thank you for explaining all this. So it's good. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I'm like, yeah, there we go. Like
good.
there's a little Korean heart. There we go. I
Do you have
appreciate
anything
everybody.
else to add to the show about the show or anything?
I'm just very proud a lot of these people. I'm happy to call every one of them friends and colleagues, and I'm very proud of the work that they've made and sent in. Um, this show wouldn't be as amazing as it is without their contribution and their artistic genius. So I really appreciate all the artists who are in the show because I very much hold them nearer and dearer to my heart than a lot of uh, other shows I've been a part of because this is so family, home, community based for me. Neon's my
Yeah,
love.
I feel the same way. And it's after all these years, it's so good. We've worked where I've been in a show of yours before, but to actually work together as
Yeah,
curators
it's
is
very ET, like, yee!
yeah.
Friends. I loved it. Like, I don't know, because you left so quickly after undergrad. And I moved to Virginia at the time. And so this was like genuinely a wonderful moment of like reconnecting in that way. Even though we stayed connected online, it's just not the same. So I really
Yeah.
loved this. This is great.
Yeah. Great.
And you
And
have me back.
yes, and I'm back here and we could keep working on things together. And if anyone after this has any questions for us, particularly I know neon's a hard thing to kind of get into or wrap your head around, feel free to reach out to us. Allie, if you want to say your Instagram as well, it'd probably be a good, and your
Yeah.
Neon, you and James.
Um, yeah, we have a couple we have a couple different Instagrams, right? So my personal Instagram is ALI_FEENEY, Ellie Feeney. The other Instagram is Nebula Neon. There's only one of us. That's our business account for making, and we need to post more to it. That's everybody's problem right now. It's like the drive to do content is killing me. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's Instagram's killing me, man. TikTok, who? So but you can find us on there. And also, if you go on Instagram, you can get our emails off of our profile pages and contact us through there as well.
And Allie and James are very good at helping people realize dreams and figure it out. So even if you never have touched a piece of glass before in that capacity, like they can help you get from idea to real time
Yeah, or
piece.
if you want to do it yourselves, I do private lessons, and so does
Yep.
James.
You beat me to
I
it
know
because
we
I'll
love
just do
bringing
that
people to
too.
media. Yeah, we
Yeah.
love bringing people to art. My favorite thing is like all my friends. They're now like we're all getting older, and they text me little photos of like their crafts that they do, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
They're
And
like,
it's
I made this thing, and I'm like, I love you. I'm so proud.
and it's a wonderful thing. I've seen people that have never done any like glass blowing or anything with glass try out neon and they're able to get something in the end, you know?
Immediately. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so hit us up, y'all.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Allie, and thank you to Travis in the gallery. Really
Yes,
appreciate
our
you
superstar
coming on.
cameraman. Woo! Thank you.
Yes. And this is the last week, so please come on by.
Yeah, it's a cool show, if I do say so ourselves.
Well, thank you, Allie, and thank you to all of you that tuned in.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.